It's a new month and everything's changing. So much change in the world, but you can take comfort in one thing that isn't changing this month.
Linode! Linode is sponsoring us again for November and December, but we just kicked off Devember, and we got a video on Devember. You should check that out. But you can use Linode to build your Devember project completely for free. You get $100 credit that's good for up to 60 days, which is going to take you through the end of the year and through Devember. And we're giving away prizes to all the good Devember projects. Now with Linode, you can set up your own VPN. If privacy is important, you can set up your own server. It's a point-and-click installer. They've got guides for everything. We did the guide. Well, Ryan did the guide. That's the royal we there, I guess, on Wireshark. That was pretty cool. WireGuard, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, my bad. Wireshark is the thing you use to sniff the packets. WireGuard is the thing you use to protect the packets.
Kind of weird how they work at opposing ends.
I want the shark. Chris is building a Minecraft server.
Yeah, we're looking into that right now. Hopefully it works the way we expect it to.
Woo! Woo! So, thanks Linode, and on with the news.
Hello, everybody. It's after the wars to come. Today is November 10th, 2020. And today we're doing government and security. As of this recording, I don't think we still don't have a president, right? Technically, like.
Well, we have a president. We just don't know who the next one's going to be.
We don't know who the next one's going to be just yet.
This might be a little short this week. It's almost as if something completely dominated the news cycle in the previous week, and nobody put out any stories.
The news that did come out, though, a lot of it is like stuff that has been held for a long time. That's like, when is the best time to strategically release this so nobody notices? There's a lot of that.
And we have some election news. Not about that part, but
the other part.
That wasn't the only thing that was being decided. That's the headline, but there were all sorts of little intermediate things that are being decided on these ballots, as is often the case. I didn't pay attention to how the two went here, did you?
Yes, I did. One passed, the other did not.
That's how I voted, but could it be the opposite of how I voted? Anyway,
judges did not win.
The extending,
yes.
that make no. Why would you ever extend the lifetime of a political office?
I mean, not to go off on a tangent here, but do you remember how like people got up in arms here a couple of years ago because there's a period of time where the lawmakers are not allowed to make law. Like, they're literally by law not allowed to work full time because they'll meddle with things. And like, we had people with torches and pitchforks like, no, you are not going to work full time because the more you're working, the more you're causing problems for the working man. Yeah. That did not pass.
So, some other things that happened in California, Proposition 24. Now, this is a privacy-based thing, and it's not huge. It's really just like, hey, we passed these privacy laws, and the companies immediately work their way around them. So let's try and plug those holes.
Proposition 24 passes in California, pushing privacy rights to the forefront again. The ballot measure closes a loophole that was in an earlier privacy law. So if you've ever gotten a pop-up on a website that's like, hey, we use cookies, are you in the European Union or California? That's what that was from. But some companies said, hey, the way the law is written, we can sort of sidestep the requirements of California. They bought themselves some time. Their time has run out. Although I don't think this change takes effect until 2021. Like the end of 2021, 2022, something like that.
Yeah. So hopefully that makes things a little bit better. At this point, I'm almost just so tired of seeing those prompts.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know.
I don't want to use the internet anymore. This is too much work. I'm going to go back to the library. It was less work.
I know you're spying. Whatever. I hate you. That wasn't the only thing that changed in California, but this one might be a little bit of a surprise. Now, a lot of people claim that this was bought, but I don't know. I mean, I have heard of a lot of people who wanted this.
Uber and Lyft prevail to keep California workers independent. So this is probably not actually a win for the worker, but most workers voted to say, hey, we should be independent contractors. Being independent contractors does give them some flexibility. They can, pick it up and drop it off wherever. But, a lot of people have pointed out that as Uber and Lyft have implemented this independent contractor thing so far, it's really pretty exploitive for the workers. Like, in order for their business model to work, people have to be working really even below minimum wage.
No health insurance or benefits either.
which is kind of a problem in California. So this is probably not ultimately good for the worker. But hey, they voted on it.
They did spend a lot of money. But how do you influence people with money in that kind of decision? That's so black and white. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe I'm overestimating the voter.
Well, the money that they spent on the ads for our next thing were really hilarious because they were it was such a stretch. It was insane. Anybody with half a brain cell was like, what is this about?
And yet, 25%, not zero brain cells, apparently, because it wasn't unanimous. But, I guess like people in the auto industry, the executives were 25% of the state. Probably not. This is, one of the biggest contested things. And it's just one state, but like California, it can be so difficult for big companies to piecemeal how they deal with things in every state that this could affect the entire country, which would be nice.
Massachusetts voters overwhelmingly passed car right to repair ballot initiative. It's a 75-25% margin on question 1, which ensures independent repair shops can continue to work on cars and suggests overwhelmingly that people want to be able to fix their things. So the auto lobby spent a crazy amount of money trying to convince people to vote no on this because, hey, if your mechanic, your shade tree mechanic is shady, see what I did there? They could put a back door in your car and see your cameras and track you and stalk you and ooh. But no one's actually doing that, and
Tesla's doing that.
Well, but Tesla wouldn't be like this law wouldn't apply to Tesla, which is the irony.
Sure, there's at least one. So this goes back to, we talked about this before. The rule is you have to give shops diagnostic tools. But because the law is old and antiquated and they didn't think to the magical future that we live in, they only covered specifically wired connections. But we're moving into the world of wirelessness. And everybody was worried, it's like, hey, when they go wireless, they're going to shut us out. They damn well would have.
Yeah.
So this gets in front of that.
They literally already did. There's a lot of stuff that was moving, like CAN bus, I think, was included in that. Like the basic sensor communications, like you got an O2 sensor, you can get stuff about that, but literally nothing else. They were moving that data over to a different bus in the car. Badness.
So now we enter into a world where it's going to be an open thing, and the McDonald's drive-thru is going to be monitoring every aspect of your car. Look, sir, would you like to buy an oil change voucher?
It's going to be amazing, though. It's like, did you know that people that are, thousands of miles past due on their things generally prefer chocolate shakes? Just lots of crazy stats coming out of that.
All right, I got you down here for a number 2 and an apple pie. Would you like an oxygen sensor? Because you need one. You're running rich, sir.
I'm looking forward to the future where, like, the AI goes into, like, it's like, generals, we need to go into DEFCON 1, and then it's like, okay, AI, walk us through what happened. And the answer was that a terrorist attack must be about to happen because it got sensor readings like this from the McDonald's drive-thru the last time a terrorist attack happened.
Portland has decided to ban facial recognition. No, not that Portland. The other Portland.
Portland, Maine votes in favor of facial recognition ban. Now, Portland, Maine, not really a big place, but they're the latest in the U.S. city to ban the use of facial recognition by officials. If you're in a business, you can still use facial recognition. You got that fancy security system? Yeah, it's fine.
Interesting.
They have an airport.
They had a de facto ban on it pending this vote. So this vote just confirms, no, we don't want facial recognition. Good job, Portland, Maine. Meanwhile, this was not on a ballot anywhere. They just decided, hey, let's just do it. And this is the reason we need these ballot initiatives, is because of crap like this. Now, Amazon has responded to this, and they're like, we don't know anything about that. Maybe they don't need to, but this is, we often talk about the slippery slope. This is a sheer cliff.
Yeah.
We knew this was coming, and here it is.
Police will pilot a program to live stream Amazon Ring cameras. Yeah, there was an update to this, or Amazon has disavowed all knowledge. They're like, they don't have access to this. We don't know what they're talking about. This doesn't make any sense. But there have been leaked documents out of Ring that describe exactly this kind of a setup with law enforcement. So it's not clear, which tail is wagging the dog.
But I totally believe this.
Yeah.
Man, that's a dream come true, right? And the sick part about this is it's not, if you opt into it, you're less affected by it than the person across the street who didn't opt into it.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are getting, spied on 24/7. It's disgusting. People are going to get Ring cameras just to retaliate against their neighbors who has a Ring camera.
And this is why I don't want to have any neighbors.
Yeah.
You're going to put it on like their fence or something, and somebody gets a Ring, and then as like a passive aggressive thing, somebody gets like 5 rings and puts it on their fence pointed directly at their neighbor's house.
Would it be illegal to point a laser pointer at their Ring?
I don't know. Maybe. That's a good question.
So we talk a lot about Starlink. It's the great hope for the rural internet. But the problem with Starlink is, as successful as it looks like it's going to be, it's going to spawn a lot of copycats and a lot of people who have similar ideas who want to do the same kind of thing. But there's only so much space. There's a lot of it, but you kind of need a lot of it per satellite because, it's not exact maneuvering up there.
We're literally heading into the scene from WALL-E where the ship's leaving and it's just a sea of broken satellites.
Yeah. So what do? Well, you have, actually the FCC is in charge of this, which, Jesus Christ. But when you have a crazy idea like this and you go to the FCC, they have their whole list. Okay, anybody can comment and say why this might be a good or a bad idea. A pretty big name has weighed in on the latest gambit.
NASA objects to new mega-constellation citing risk of catastrophic collision. Now, it doesn't name the person or entity that's responsible for this, but I don't think it's Starlink because it says that each one of their satellites is like 700 pounds.
It's they did name them. It's like they're doing a 5G in space type of deal. It's definitely not Starlink.
But their satellites are huge compared to Starlink.
AST.
Oh, AST. Okay.
AST and science. I don't think this is the same portion of space either.
No, it's like a 700-mile orbit.
So, yeah. Big monstrous satellites. Now, they also noted that, hey, you're basically putting, pickup trucks in space, and you've never done this before. Starlink has a 3% failure rate. Let's say you have 10%. That's a lot of pickup trucks floating around up there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. T-Mobile gobbled up Sprint, and they may have gotten a little bit of a bitter pill in that mouthful. But I think, they probably knew about this.
Yeah, this is not a lot of money for a corporation like this. T-Mobile will pay $200 million to settle Sprint's alleged Lifeline abuse, and they're also going to pay for some kind of third-party auditor or neutral auditor or something that is going to provide insight into their internal workings. Basically, what the deal with this is, there's a fund that the federal government runs. So for poor people or people that have low areas of population density, there's 5 people per square mile, they also need cell phone service. It doesn't make economic sense to build a cell tower for 5 people. This fund is meant to help subsidize some of that cost and also subsidize some of the cost for towers, people that are subscribed, that are super dirt poor. Well, this program, Sprint, was we've got thousands of people that are super dirt poor. And it would take the money, but then it was also billing those people full rate, which it's not allowed to do.
And I think they were signing up people who didn't even exist.
Yeah. So. Whoops. Were we not supposed to do that? My bad. They got caught.
And yet we'll suffer only minimal consequences.
Yeah. Well, Sprint isn't going to suffer at all.
Yeah.
They've made the mistake and then sold it to somebody else. Yeah, so the perfect crime, I guess. Now, outside the U.S., the reach of the federal government is not that limited. Turns out when you're the most powerful country in the world, you can just bully other countries into going after the people you don't like Julian Assange, for example.
I hope he's doing okay. He's probably not doing well.
I don't think he's doing that well. Or Snowden. And before either of those targets, you had this man who had the audacity to serve files on the internet.
Kim.com can be extradited to the U.S., but can also appeal. He has, committed crimes on American soil, even though he's never been here.
Also, at least at the time, wasn't a crime in New Zealand, where he is. I don't think extradition is supposed to work like that.
No, it's retroactively illegal. That seems like that's like not a thing that's supposed to be. They also messed up a bunch of stuff, a bunch of procedural stuff with like the warrant to spy on him and his house raid and blah blah blah.
I still don't like his chances.
No, his chances were never good, but he's held out this long.
Yeah.
That's something.
That's got to suck though, because he's a very rich man and appears to enjoy the finer things in life. Doesn't seem to deny himself very much.
Yeah.
And to go from that to an American prison, they'll probably put him in a supermax just to screw him.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Do you think that he will join the Nazi lowriders? You think they'll have him?
I think that he's intelligent enough and probably will keep it together enough that he will probably like try to write a book or a memoir or something from the inside, and it'll probably be fascinating for not the reasons he intends.
In some instances, they take that money.
Yeah. They'll probably do that here since, money is the big crime.
Well, we talked last week about the big I.P.O. going on in China. China's richest man is heavily involved here, and it will make him even richer. Maybe not Bezos level, but, approaching it. And there was some talk about, could Washington get involved? And, is this going to happen? Well, I don't think Washington got involved. It was instead the Communist Party who took a big dump on this.
China halts Ant Group's blockbuster I.P.O. A dual listing in Shanghai and Hong Kong was postponed one day after Chinese regulators summoned Jack Ma and other executives of the financial technology giant. So this was Alipay, like AliExpress, Alipay, and something else. They were going to do an I.P.O. for their payment system, their payment gateway. And the Chinese government was like, no, this is us. We are going to handle digital currency. Remember all that talk of China going to cryptocurrency? These things are probably not unrelated.
Which came after.
Yeah.
Alipay. So this guy had, I think like half the country uses it. And it was like, oh, that really works. Oh, we'll take over that from now on.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still use it. They're still a company. They're just not allowed to go public. So I don't know what that means for him. If he's smart, maybe he's just like, why don't you buy this from me?
I'll just retire.
A large discount.
I'll go live on an island now. It's fine.
It seems like rich people never just retire, though. Like, they're always seeking more wealth.
Well, to get that amount of money, I believe you have to have a mental disability. It's one of those mental disabilities that the world smiles upon. But it's insane. Like when you hit, that guy's a billionaire. When you hit $1 billion, and you don't just spend the rest of your life, just like doing fun things, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. It's like
you're never satisfied.
You could spend millions of dollars a year every year for the rest of your life and not make a dent in your fortune.
Tens of millions. and you're pulling in the interest on $1 billion. You can live off that in complete luxury. But that's the kind of mental illness that most countries love to have, right? Because you generate incredible wealth. And so these people are celebrated rather than,
pitied.
I don't know what we should do with them. Maybe send them into space.
Put them in charge of the company that is sending you into space. Oh, wait.
This, as of this, The Guardian didn't update the story, I guess. But we now know the mystery's been solved.
Oh, no. Silk Road Bitcoin's worth $1 billion changed hands after 7 years. Funds have laid dormant since the darknet site founder Ross Ulbricht was jailed in 2013. Where did they go?
Who was it? It was the U.S. government.
Oh, they did have the keys.
Yeah. So, what? I don't know how much it was then, but oh boy, $1 billion? They made quite a bit of money on Bitcoin.
They're going to be able to buy a lot of gray keys with that.
So, yeah. Wow. If he had you think if he would have, like, based on the case that they had, let's say he was, in 2012, he was just like, all right, I'm out. Would they have found him? Or could he have quietly been a billionaire today?
He probably could have quietly been a billionaire.
Although he would have had to steal everybody's coins, I guess.
Yeah.
They could have taken just his bit and been fine, I'm sure.
Well, I think the original version of that article mentioned how there was a couple of other wallets floating around, and it does appear like that those people or sellers just took their part and left, and some of that was in the $100 million range.
Now, do you think there's a lot of conspiracy theories that say that they were waiting, not just because Bitcoin has spiked up during the election. It was like 15.6, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. But a lot of people are saying they waited for this really, really busy news week to do this so that
No one would notice.
people wouldn't be paying that much attention.
I would agree with that.
Because, it's going to be like, hey, $1 billion. Why don't you use that for something useful, like, paying the debt or, all these, a million other things that we need it for. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to give that to the Department of Defense.
We're going to buy a bunch more gray keys.
We're going to convert this into $1 bills and just drop it over Iran.
Throw it into the ocean.
The roads are paved with $1 bills.
This isn't much of a story, but we've been hearing more and more about people, they're getting hip to this whole, like, there's a camera and a microphone in everything situation, and they want ways to defeat that, like the remote control that's listening to you. What do you do? And PC companies and phone companies, I think, are getting on board with that. Dell going the extra mile. This is nice to see.
Dell's adding a hardware privacy driver for Linux. This is basically a hardware kill switch. This is a great article on Phoronix. And basically, it's a Linux kernel module that will plug and unplug your microphone and your webcam. This is nice. This is really nice. Some independent third-party laptop vendors added this, some of the privacy-oriented laptop vendors. And I guess Dell got the hint because people are buying those that are, in the know for that kind of thing.
Krista, did you change your passwords this week?
No.
You might need to.
Oh. No. Configuration snafu exposes passwords for 2 million marijuana growers. You can't grow pot right now.
I'm going to be more giggly than usual because I haven't had a lot of sleep, and also the Ryzen launch yesterday was just bananas, so I'm just like...
Let me head off the comments here, because as much as we like to joke, Krista is such an innocent child.
Yeah,
Krista,
I don't actually do any drugs at all. I've smoked a cigarette. I've actually never smoked a cigarette. I've smoked a cigar once.
You should do that live.
What,
No.
smoke a cigarette or?
Yeah.
No, it's so terrible.
Well,
Yeah, I
no,
hate
it's not
the
just going to
smell.
be immediately addicted. You grow
My
most.
mom still.
The majority of marijuana is grown indoors, Krista. You grow it whenever you want to.
We do. So we have 2 grow lights that we use for some of our plants we bring in the winter. And as soon as my husband bought those, I was like, we're on a list now. Like, that's just quietly been stored away. Like,
When I was in college, I was harassed in my apartment for electricity usage. They were like, we need to look around. And I was like, no, you don't. You don't have a warrant.
yeah.
They're like, thermal cameras, like your electrical usage is like, you got some kind of an operation going on here. I was like, no, I don't.
Yeah,
No,
Krista,
I'm just a nerd.
Yeah.
once again, your grow lights that you bought at Meyer, not the kind of grow lights that you're going to need for that kind of situation.
Oh, are they not? Are they different?
Yeah, why are they different? Wouldn't it just be you need something to put out light and heat so your plants grow?
You could grow some really shitty weed, maybe.
Yeah.
But you need like the super high intensity, like purple
Yeah, say, does it
lights.
need more heat?
It's red, blue, UV, quantum boards, chat. That's what you want to Google.
So you can also have your name put on a list.
No, see, what Ryan just did was fill the engines listening for that with lots of extraneous data points, so it masks his own. It's pretty genius, really.
And, Krista, if you are in that hacked database, bad news, because we've talked about this before, there are databases of hacked databases, which can then become hacked databases. It's hacked databases all the way down.
All the way down. Wait, which one of us is reading this one? Is it me?
Go ahead.
23,600 hacked databases have leaked from a defunct data breach index site.
It was cityoday.com or citoday.com. What a terrible name.
Unfortunate.
Or .in. I'm sorry, not .com, .in.
So this is a site that was trying to monetize collating the hacked databases into a friendly format. And
No
then
one wanted to pay for that. Who knew?
Then they themselves shut down or just didn't care about it anymore. It got hacked or whatever.
Guys, I got this idea for this amazing thing. It's a board game where you literally jump to conclusions.
So, I guess, if you're thinking to yourself, I should subscribe to one of these sites, my advice would just be wait.
Maybe don't do that.
We have a lot of torrent freak articles this week because, and again, maybe this is the old conspiracy. It's like just wait for a really busy news week.
Yeah.
Wait till everybody's distracted because they are making a lot of statements and doing a lot of really unpopular things.
Movie industry, VPNs and Tor pose a threat to legitimate streaming platforms. Here's an alternative title. Screwdrivers pose a legitimate threat to video cassette recording.
People in London are just like, oh, our laws are even dumber than that. So yeah, they're saying that the whole like VPN getting around the regional locks, that's crime. We must stop it. And being able to hide your identity, it mustn't be allowed.
Let's not forget this is the same industry that tried to like convince the U.S. legislature that recording Mr. Rogers off of an air broadcast onto a tape was an offense worthy of 5 years in jail.
Also, the ones who were pretty anti-streaming for a long time until Netflix started paying dues to them. Now they're all for it. Of course, they don't really have a choice, do they? And GitHub, some misinformation flying around GitHub. Were they hacked? Were they not hacked? They definitely had a bug, and they seemed to do nothing about it.
Google to GitHub. Time's up. This unfixed high-severity bug affects developers. So basically, there's a feature where somebody can send you a pull request to your repository. But it's kind of a bug because depending on how you've got your automation set up, any kind of output that you have in your tests that'll run against that could hijack the output. So like if you set an environment variable or something like that, then their script could set an environment variable, and that could lead to bad stuff.
GitHub already embroiled in some controversy because of the RIAA going after YouTube DL. There was a lot of backlash against that. And one of the more entertaining ones was this. Now, GitHub has already responded and said, we already knew about this. This is not something new. But this guy did manage to post it in their DMCA
using
section.
The aforementioned bug.
Using the bug.
GitHub denies getting hacked. Someone attached a copy of the GitHub Enterprise Server source code to GitHub's DMCA section, but the GitHub CEO said that they mistakenly leaked that code months ago. So it turns out if you give GitHub a lot of money, you can have GitHub on premise. You just have to pay a lot of money for that. This is basically what this is. Somebody used the aforementioned bug where you can do a pull request. So they issued a pull request to be the entire GitHub Enterprise source code thing on the DMCA repository. Neat.
Yep. Not useful, but he made a statement. And I appreciate him doing it. I'm giving him a gender. I don't know.
Nicely done.
Maze. We've talked a lot about Maze. They are an evil ransomware company. And this is a weird statement because you don't often hear this from a ransomware company. Well, company's not the right word. Group. Ransomware group.
Maze, a notorious ransomware group, says it's shutting down. I read the notice. The translation is the fuzz is really close. We're getting out.
Or whoever's in charge at Maze hit their number. And they're not somebody like Bezos or Musk. And they're like, yep, I'm not going down the whole Silk Road route. Taking my Bitcoins, I'm getting out of here.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, this is someone who's not insane.
Evil, perhaps, but not
Yeah.
insane. Also, they might be seeing this like, oh, those murder charges are coming down for the hospital hacks. Might be a good time to step out. This is a terrifying story because I would never think about this as a risk. I should. I mean, there's no reason not to, but I think a lot of people wouldn't because you think, oh, I have my, confidentiality and all that stuff. I'm safe here.
Nope.
But no.
Therapy patients blackmailed for cash after clinic data breach. Now, the ransomeers, I don't know what to call them, they first asked the clinic, hey, we got all your stuff. It's a standard ransomware attack. They said no. They restored from backups and everything was good. But these guys had exfiltrated the data. So they went after the patients. And one of the patients is on record as saying, you know, my therapist was making notes in a notebook. I had no idea this was going to be uploaded to the cloud, so they're suing the clinic.
And they have already released, I think, 3 examples to prove that it's real. And they contact this guy, and they were like, go look at these examples. We've read your file. It's embarrassing. And it was stuff he did. He was a teenager when he went to therapy and apparently admitted some unpleasant things. And they're like, yep, give us the money.
Kind of terrifying.
And they would have, like 700, 800 pounds?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot of money, but who's to say that they wouldn't hit you again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
It is.
I've heard, like one of those, there's always like one company who advertises on every podcast. There's like a online therapy thing that's really advertising hard right now. Like BetterHelp or something like that.
I've not seen that.
There was a lot of controversy around them because they were doing some kind of shady things, maybe.
Yeah, that's not shocking at all. But what a very personal thing to go online for. I guess, with the pandemic, it makes sense. But I would worry that the person they're connecting me to has no credentials at all. Like basically, there's an Indian call center.
I think that's what was happening.
Oh, okay. So that's exactly what I would expect to happen. And finally, I couldn't figure out where to put this. I went with the security section because it's a type of security, but it's really more of a terrifying view into our dark future. And the future is now because people are having to deal with this.
Students are rebelling against eye-tracking exam surveillance tools. The article goes out of its way to point out really insane emails from instructors, and it's like somebody looked away 637 times during they're cheating, whatever. This is college. If you're cheating yourself. Like you're giving money to the organization, and then you're cheating on the exam.
Well, you're also cheating everybody else who's going to enter the job market against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. In a perfect world, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah. Because when you go to that interview, it's like, all right, show us what you got. And it's like,
But the AI is now doing that.
Yeah.
So this thing, they pointed out some of the more terrifying things about this is it's not exactly a set of rules that you have to violate. It's just the AI is trained to look for differences, outliers. So he pointed out, if you look away from the camera 600 times, you're probably an outlier. Unless everybody else looked away from the camera 600 times and you stared right at it and never looked away, then you're the outlier.
Also, the number of times you type something. So like if people are not typing as much as other people, it's like that may be something you need to look into.
And they talked about one guy who couldn't get registered, and so he just couldn't take the tests. And luckily his professor worked with him on that, but if he hadn't, what would happen?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Krista, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I mean, this leaves no room at all for different learning styles. Like, you're an anomaly just because, maybe you need to get up and move around while you're listening to a lesson.
Did a young Krista, well, we know about your doodling.
Yeah, I was a compulsive doodler as a child, and still am to some extent.
Did you have high test anxiety?
No, I didn't really care about tests. I just, like, to be able to listen, I had to do something with my hands or to draw.
Maybe a little flapping?
Yeah, do a little flapping. And if I couldn't do that, I didn't listen as well.
As someone else who can't sit still,
he says as he fumbles with his bread tie.
Yeah, we all fidget.
But you can't see it anymore. It's fine.
So, yeah, that's all we got. Like I say, short ones this week because other stuff was taking up all the news cycle.
Oh, we got to record the Linode intro after we say bye. Because I forgot.
Are we doing a different one?
No, yeah.
All right.
It's November's new month.
Yeah.
So anyway, chat, thank you for being with us today. We will see you later. Bye. Flap.